This is one of my favorite stories of the day. Because it's just so goofy, it's so silly, it's so ridiculous, and the guy just wants attention. So we're going to give it to him. We're going to give it to him. Not necessarily the kind of attention he wants, but he's going to get some attention. So Milo Yiannopoulos, he is going through this weird phase where he's trying to get even more attention, and he says, I'm ex-gay now. So he's pandering to the social conservatives a lot. He's pandering to the fundamentalist evangelical Christian community a lot. So he just did this stunt. He tossed his engagement ring. See, I thought he was already married to a man. But maybe not. Maybe they're just fiancés. I don't know. Maybe just engaged. I don't know. But anyway, he takes this super expensive ring and he tosses it to pander to the fundamentalist Christian community and try to remain relevant. Take a look.
It's called the sodomy stone. That's the name I've given to the gigantic engagement ring I bought myself as part of a union that I now regard as somewhat infernal. I've been thinking a lot lately about what's real and what's not real in my life, and thinking about the trappings of my former life that it would be a good idea to get rid of. And almost nothing strikes me as more fake than diamonds. Heretical, I know. But here's the thing. The price of diamonds is kept artificially high by the people who dig them out of the earth. And they're the same people who invented the mythology that diamonds represent love and eternity. This has got nothing to do with some gemstone in the earth. It's just an invention of a New York advertising agency. And the more I looked at this gigantic 4-carat money pit, the more I thought this is a perfect example of some of the lies I bought into in my previous life. For instance, the lie that I could be a rabid culture warrior for the right and a sodomite at the same time. I can't. And if you were to buy that stone retail, not from Tiffany or Cartier or anything like that, where it would be double, but if you were to just buy the stone retail, it's coming up as $145,000, $758. So I guess for whatever that means. Hitting me, really. You know, like, it's for the best.
I'm calling bullshit. Which, granted, listen, that's not the hardest thing in the world to do. It's pretty obvious. But homeboy didn't just throw $150,000 off the side of a boat in the middle of the ocean near Hawaii. He didn't do... Nobody's dumb enough to do that. Even fucking Jeff Bezos, who can wipe his asshole with $150,000. He probably makes that in a fraction of a second. Even he wouldn't do that. $150,000. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He didn't do it. Nonsense. So, if I had to guess, what he probably did was Went and got one of those, 25-cent rings. Remember those things from when you're younger at like the pizza place? You put the quarter in and then you get like a cheap little plastic ring or whatever. He probably got one of those and threw that in the water. If I had to guess, I would guess that that's what it is. And so let's go through some of the stuff here. He's right about one thing. He talks about how like diamonds are bullshit. Yeah, that's kind of true. And also, it's one of those things where I'm sure if you track where the materials come from on almost any diamond ring, eventually you get to some sort of slave mine in Africa or something. And so, I mean, it's almost impossible to ethically shop because under our system, almost everything, somewhere down the line, there's some sort of underpaid labor or slave labor that's, creating the product. So it's almost impossible to ethically shop, but that's one of the things where it seems almost extra egregious, where like the whole industry is just terrible across the board. So he's right about that. Diamonds are kind of bullshit. But he says it's a $150,000 ring, pretends to throw it in the ocean. He calls it the sodomy stone. Hilarious. I like the part where he's drinking and smoking and looking depressed. By the way, explain to me how that works, because he's pandering to the evangelical fundamentalist Christians. That's the whole point, is he's pandering to these people. And on the one hand, he's like, I will abide by all the dumb rules that you guys abide by. And then on the other hand, he's like, well, let me hold on to other vices that you guys condemn. Evangelical fundamentalist Christians, they look down on, alcoholics and people who smoke. And so why is it that some of the vices are okay and other ones are not? I don't understand. You want to break this down for me, Milo? Why is it that, I'm sure Milo still eats seafood and has shellfish, and that's equally condemned in the Bible like homosexuality is, but why is one okay and the other one's not okay? It's almost like you're just pandering and playing a role and not really doing a good job at it. So again, let's get to the heart of the issue here. Ex-gay is not a thing. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. And, if you think for a second, hey, maybe it is a thing, maybe you can coach it out of yourself or whatever, do this very basic intellectual exercise. You watching this right now, whoever you may be, think about what you're into. Think about the things that are your go-tos, that are like, this is my, this always gets me going, X, Y, or Z. There's all types of people out there. There's feet people. There's boob people. You name it, it's out there. I'm going to cut myself off from going further down this road because we can get into some funky-ass territory if we keep going down this road. But you get the point. Whatever you're into, could you imagine willing yourself out of it? Like, hey, I know I've always been into X, Y, and Z, but I feel like it's immoral, so now I will myself out of X. It's not real. That's not a thing. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. It almost is as ridiculous as saying, hey, I think that peeing is immoral, so I'm going to try to quit peeing. That's a thing that you're never going to be able to quit. You have to do it. By the same token, whatever is on your sexual map is on your sexual map. Now, there is some debate as to how people get to that point. Is it because you're quote-unquote born that way for everybody? Or were there things that happen in your developmental stages when you're very young that leave an imprint that then in the future become your things? We don't know exactly, but what we do know for sure is whatever's on that love map, it ain't going anywhere. That shit is set skis, dog. It is set. So to do the whole ex-gay thing, I mean, it's the most obvious grift of all time. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen. But the thing is, I know that Milo knows that. I know he knows that. So it's so shameless because he even looks in the mirror at the end of the day like, am I really going all the way with this? Homeboy did not quit dick. This guy wakes up in the morning and thinks about some gangly flesh tubes, and this guy goes to bed at night and thinks about some gangly flesh tubes. It's just part of who he is. And by the way, let's entertain for a second. Let's say he is sincere in trying to do this. It would be the most spectacular crash and burn failure of all time. Of all time. How long are you going to go, Milo, suppressing those urges? 3 days? A week at most? Is that what you're going to do? And you're going to hide it? While, feeling shitty about yourself? I mean, come on. It's the dumbest thing ever. By the way, if there is a God, which we don't know if there is, but if there is, that motherfucker doesn't care about what you're doing in the bedroom. That motherfucker does not care about you beating off. He does not care about any of that stuff. And if this God does, that's the dumbest God I've ever heard in my life. Of all the things going on in the world, you have babies with cancer, you have a global pandemic, you have extreme poverty. In so many nations, they don't even have, modern plumbing and they shit in the open. All these things going on. War, murder. And God is like, what are you doing with your dick? What are you guys doing sexually? I'm monitoring this. If you're worshiping that God, you should probably pick another fucking God. And don't worry, you got plenty to pick from. There's thousands of different interpretations of God in all the various cultures and religions, so on and so forth. So just pick a better one. But this is where he's at. I really do think he knows it's bullshit. But I don't know what's funnier. It might even be funnier if he doesn't think it's bullshit and he's sincere. But what I'm convinced is bullshit is he didn't throw a $150,000 ring in the ocean. No way, Jose. Not even close. No way. Nobody's silly enough to do that. Nobody. So he just wants more attention. Congrats, Milo. You're getting it. But you're getting it from somebody who sees through you from a million miles away. Final thing is this. I know somebody who knows him. I think when you get to like the political world, new media political world, you're always like 1 or 2 steps removed from any of the other people who are in this field. And interestingly enough, this person has said about nobody else what they said about Milo, which is with Milo, I don't believe him. Even before his desperation phase, very simply, they were like, I don't believe him. I think he's putting on an act. I think the whole point is to get as many eyeballs on him as possible, to be as famous as possible, to be as known as possible, and he doesn't care how. He doesn't care about the details. He doesn't care about the specifics. It's look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I'll be damned if this is not the clearest manifestation of that.